And there was an interesting conversation I had with Sharon there, and it looks like, as much as possible, the tightening that the federal government keeps on talking about should actually start in-house. The state government should begin to look at how they can also tighten their belts even further. Because if, for instance, what we've been hearing that, you know, the accounts committee will be disbursing about 200 billion naira to the 3 tiers of government, they're not really going to be getting much. And don't forget, he also pointed out that most of the state governments actually took out bonds. You know, so they have to start repaying back the loans they've taken out on bonds, they've taken out on foreign loans, and the rest of it. So they don't really have so much to take care of the overhead
I think some interesting developments are starting to take place, and I heard this morning in the news that the Lagos State government has started thinking in that direction. Now, let me clarify what that means. What I heard on the news this morning was that the Lagos State government has started putting up a new, the state governor, Dr. Fashola, yesterday, the House of Assembly spoke with the Assemblyman and said, look, some kind of legislation that will make sure that all the parastatals in Lagos State don't just get allocations for doing nothing. They will have to show performance in terms of externally generated revenue. So
that's the transparency and accountability
that is belt tightening, as it were, and what the Lagos State governor was putting forward, and which I think other governors would have to do very quickly, was to look, you have XY number of parastatals, you don't just keep pumping money into these parastatals. How much impact are they making in efficient civil service? How much efficient they're making for those who are in the first, second, third line of revenue generation into the coffers of the state government? That has to happen. Now, at the state level, that should happen. At the local government level, you also need to begin to how do you generate more revenue, but how much do you put back into the system to allow people to make sure that people feel very comfortable, you coming back to them and say, we're generate X, Y, we're asking, we're expanding our tax drag rate. That would have to start happening. When we look at the federal government as the only whipping boy in the room, that is very wrong. We need to know that 36 states plus 1 makes federal government of Nigeria. So don't let anybody be under the illusion that there's one federal government anywhere. The federal government means you have 36 federating of the all. Everybody contributes to the center, then from there it was all shared back to the federating unit, then we all generated and you put it back at the center. So it's all part of the ecosystem. So nobody should sit somewhere and think that they are out of the purview of this all. The roof is coming down on everybody's shoulders, and now the state governments have to take that line. Local governments will have to take that line. All eyes have been on the finance minister, and Ngozi being the whipping girl. Unfortunately, I have a lot of pity for the finance minister. Everybody, she's the one getting the whiplash. But this time, the state governors will have to do something. There has to be some haircuts. There has to be a way of easing people off into the private sector in a way that they can move on with their lives and be useful in the private sector and keep a very lean, efficient, and improved civil service that will be revenue generating and deliver civil services that are actually civil to the Nigerian people. That is very, very important. Again, you talk about the bonds, the risk on the market. The key issues now is that some state governments are so indebted to the commercial banks. And so some of the news on the street, or some rumors on the street, as you may call it, that some banks have billions and billions of naira that money is borrowed from. You remember the Ekiti State issue with the former governor about how much debt, whether it was 30 billion or 80 billion that the former governor left for the current administration to run. That is still there. That's part of the issue. Now, that's the state government. Ekiti State has some bonds. Lagos has about 200 billion or thereabout. These are some of the issues that we'll have to keep talking about moving forward. Then you talk about the foreign loans, whether for water, sanitation, improved water supply, whatever, healthcare, that Lagos, River State, and a few others.
Just like Sean actually said, these are assets that are not bringing anything back just in that if you've tied the monies down and you're not getting any returns as quickly as they should be coming out.
Very interesting, because if you take $200 million to improve waterways or to improve sanitation and the drainages and what have you, these are not non-generating projects or activities or operations that you're executing. So you need to find money from somewhere to keep paying salaries, buy tea, buy tissue paper for the toilet, buy fuel into the car. Of course, there could be food regulation of fuel price. So whether you're a state governor or whatever, you have to buy petrol or diesel at the price at which it goes at the pump. That is regardless of age, race, religion, whatever. That is coming through. Now, these are some of the issues that have to be put together, and for every state government and her state of assemblies. But it's also good that the Lagos State is taking the first step and says the center of excellence. I think Governor Fashola has fired the first shot.
Well, He should.
Let's see who follows suit.
Well, thank you so much for nicely summarizing what we've talked about for most of the conversation today. Both of
Sure. Nice
It's been
one.
an interesting conversation with you. As always, of course, we have you back again tomorrow. But that's all we have time for. If you missed today's edition of the program, be sure to catch it on youtube.com/channelsweb/videos. And also, don't forget that Central Bank of Nigeria will likely offer about 170 billion naira as the Treasury at the primary market auctions window, of course, and you know you can follow at This Morning for updates on that as well. But I'm Harriet Agbenyi. Thank you so much for being a part of today's show.